Hello, my dear friend. Time to put the kettle on the fire. It's going to be chilly tonight. No one knows whether it's true or just a fairy tale, what this monster really looked like, what shape it had, whether people ever actually met it or not. And yet the story is written in the old books, and not by our hands. The elders whisper of a bargain far worse than death. The master of the mountain doesn't take your life, he takes your reason for living, leaving only an icy void in its place. They say the mountains are the bones of the earth, breaking through the world's skin. But the old ones know, they are not bones. They are the teeth of an ancient god. On the highest cursed peak, it is not a god that dwells, but its sorrow, a spirit born of solitude and eternal icy flame. His name was Afanasi, a hunter, his soul chilled by grief. The mountain had taken his brother. He came not for revenge, but to make a pact. In his satchel was not an ice axe, but a carved wooden box, a gift for the master, the only toll it would accept. The moment he stepped onto the path, the wind carried a howl, not of a wolf. This sound scraped against bone and froze the blood in his veins. But this was not a threat. It was a question, a whisper in an ancient tongue his mind could not grasp, but his soul knew. The mountain tested his will. The wind whispered with his brother's voice, begging him to turn back. Ghostly faces swirled in the blizzard. The snow beneath his boots formed ancient, wicked runes, promising only death and eternal rest in a cold, icy embrace. The shadows between the rocks came alive, twisting into monsters from forgotten tales. They reached for him with their gnarled, phantom hands. For a moment, an image flared in his mind. Two laughing boys in a field under a bright, warm sun. The memory he carried, but Afanasi pushed onward. He knew these were just echoes of old pain, trapped in the ice. He would not yield to these cheap tricks. He passed an old stone marker, half buried in snow. The single symbol carved upon it seemed to watch him with its empty gaze. And then he reached it, a desolate plateau where a dead silence reigned. Even the wind dared not disturb this ancient peace. In the center stood a lone, blackened idol, a nameless god forgotten eons ago. It was waiting. It was always waiting. Behind the idol, the entrance to an ice cave gaped like a black wound, leading into the very heart of the cold. The darkness within was absolute, not an absence of light, but a living, crushing void that swallowed both sound and thought. Time itself had frozen here. Snowflakes hung suspended in the air. The only movement was the beat of Afanasi's heart, loud as a funeral drum. And then, in that impenetrable darkness, two embers ignited, two eyes smoldering with the sorrow of an eternity. It had come. From the gloom, a long, unnaturally thin arm appeared. Its frost-covered fingers slowly gripped the edge of the ice. The master of the mountain stepped into the light. Immense, stooped, with long arms that nearly touched the ground. Not a beast, not a man. Its face, almost human, seemed carved from ancient ice, and in its eyes was an unbearable, cosmic grief. Its white fur was not fur at all, but living hoarfrost, constantly growing and shedding with a quiet, barely audible whisper. Afanasi felt no fear, only a cold, reverent awe. He stood before a power that was older than the world itself. He slowly dropped to one knee, not as a slave before his master, but as a petitioner, performing an ancient, forgotten rite. He placed the carved box on the pure, untouched snow, the only dark object in this kingdom of white silence. The wooden lid creaked open. Afanasi revealed his gift, his offering to a spirit who had nothing but the void. Inside lay not gems or gold, a lock of a child's hair, a willow wood whistle, and a dried blue flower from his home meadow. The master did not look at the items. It looked into Afanasi's very soul, seeing what that soul was giving along with them. It took one slow, silent step forward. Its immense shadow fell over Afanasi, cutting him off from the rest of the world. The long, frost-covered fingers slowly reached for his face, not with menace, but with understanding, accepting the payment. The icy finger touched Afanasi's forehead. A tremor ran through his body, not from the cold, but from farewell. A bright flash, his brother's laughter, the warmth of the sun, the smell of summer grass. The brightest memory of his life flared for one last time, but the colors immediately began to fade. The sun grew cold, the laughter fell silent, and the warmth turned to a handful of gray, lifeless ash. A faint, visible wisp of light was drawn from his head into the master's finger. It was not taking things, it was taking the memory. A single tear escaped Afanasi's eye. It froze halfway down his cheek, becoming a tiny, sharp icicle. The master removed its hand. Afanasi's gaze was now empty. He remembered he had a brother, but he no longer remembered why he loved him. Now it was the master's turn to pay. The ice wall of the cave behind it began to tremble, glowing from within with a dim, ghostly light. In the ice, as if in a murky mirror, a silhouette began to form. The figure of a boy, woven from snow, regret, and eternal winter. The ghost of Stepan. He did not look afraid. In his large, sad eyes was a peace he had never found in life. His lips moved silently, forming two words that Afanasi did not hear, but understood with his heart. Go, live. A transparent hand rose in a slow, final gesture of farewell. Forgiveness was given, the debt was paid, the soul was free, and just as slowly, the figure began to dissolve, breaking apart into a myriad of snowflakes until only a faint glow remained in the ice. The glow faded. The cave wall became just dead ice once more. The audience was over. The master of the mountain, without a sound, turned and retreated back into the darkness of its cave. Its purpose was fulfilled. Afanasi was left alone on the empty plateau. Before him lay the open box, its contents now meaningless. With a heavy, mechanical motion, he shut the lid. The sound echoed across the dead silence and was gone. He stood and walked away. His shoulders were slumped, as if he carried the invisible weight of the entire world. And the mountain fell silent. The whispers and shadows were gone. It had received its toll, and now, indifferently, released him from its domain. He trudged through the blizzard, but no longer felt the wind or the cold. His empty eyes stared straight ahead, seeing nothing. The setting sun cast his long, distorted shadow on the snow, the only companion that remained with him after the meeting. He descended to the tree line. The skeletons of dead trees greeted him like a silent guard at the entrance to the world of the living. Years passed. Afanasi grew old. He sat in his hut by a long-dead hearth. The light never returned to his eyes. Outside the window, children laughed, dogs ran, life teemed. But to him, this world was just a dull, faded picture. On a shelf, covered in dust and cobwebs, sat the very same carved box. A forgotten artifact of a bargain he barely remembered. Far, far away, at the very top of the world, under the indifferent stars, stood the lonely, cursed, Bone Peak. At the entrance to its cave sat the master of the mountain, but now, in its eternal, icy sorrow, there burned a tiny, warm spark, a stolen memory of sun, of summer, of the laughter of two brothers, the only treasure in its empty, frozen world. Sometimes, on the quietest night, a thin, faint sound drifts down from the peak, the simple melody of a child's whistle. It is not the wind that plays it. It is played by a sorrow that once learned to remember what warmth felt like. This is the payment for peace, and the price of a deal with the guardian that watches not over a mountain, but over the void itself.
Subscribe and like it! Whee! This is fun! Whoa!